It's time. Time for the read aloud. Um, Today we're going to read chapter 13. And if you remember the previous chapter, Malu came home and Senora Auralia was sitting on the front porch crocheting a toilet paper cover. Looks like a senorita in her dress. She took a CD from her, and then, if I remember correctly, she was excited about the flyer for the fall festival or something like that. There was like a battle of the bands type thing. Just hoping to meet her people. Maybe playing some punk rock music at the battle of the bands. Anyway, chapter 13. Before Mom could pack our whole Saturday with boring cultural events, I asked if I could do homework at Kalaka. I had no plans to do any actual work, though. I just wanted to hang out at the only place in Chicago that I liked besides the library. Mom agreed to let me go so long as I texted her as soon as I got there. Inside Kalaka, I walked up to the counter and looked at the selection of pan dolce while I waited for someone to come over. The whooshing of the milk steamer and a banging noise came from behind the espresso machine. A dark head of hair peeked out over the top. "Dang it!" The person emerged and placed a green mug on the counter in front of me. "What does this look like to you?" It was the blue-haired kid who'd been in the auditorium with me on the first day of school, except his hair was now black. I looked down at the blob of milk foam floating on the coffee's surface. I knew there was a right answer, but I wasn't sure what it was. It's supposed to be a tulip," he said. "That's what I was going to say." "Liar," the boy said. "This is so frustrating. I'll never get it." He took a sip of the coffee before emptying the mug into the sink. "You want to order something?" I looked at the chalkboard menu hanging behind him. "Can I get a concha?" I asked, "and a café au lait? Hold the art, please." "No need to rub it in," he said. "Sorry." I smiled at him to let him know I was just joking. "Hey, you had blue hair, right? On the first day of school?" With a square of waxy bakery paper, the boy pulled out a concha frosted with pale yellow sugar and placed it on a plate in front of me. "That's me," he said, touching his hair. "You had the raccoon eyes." "They weren't raccoon eyes," I said with a frown. "They were punk eyes. Duh." The boy laughed and slid over to the espresso machine to make my drink. "Aren't you kind of young to have a job?" I asked. "I'm 13, the boy said. "When my grandfather was my age, he had dropped out of school, crossed the border, and was supporting his family. So, no." "You sound like my mom with your sad Mexican story," I said. "You get those too?" he laughed. "Anyway, I don't really have a choice since my parents own the place. Free child labor and all, you know." "Wait," I said. "You're Jose?" "Joe," he said. "How do you know my name?" "I met your mom," I said, "and your grandma's my neighbor." "Did Boyle make you one of her famous toilet paper covers yet?" I nodded. "She makes those for everyone," he said and laughed. "You ain't special." "Thanks." I thought of the creepy doll that now lived in our bathroom. "Your parents let you work here alone?" I asked, looking for any sign of an adult presence. "Yeah, right. They're in the back." At that moment, a loud, heartbroken wail came out of the coffee shop's sound system. "I know this song," I said. "Your grandma was playing it yesterday." "Lola Beltran," Joe said. "Boyle loves Lola Beltran." He placed a mismatched ceramic coffee mug and saucer on the counter. One cafe, no art." Joe said with a frown. "I'm really good at those." Mrs. Hidalgo came out of the back room, her arms full of bags of coffee beans. She wore a brown Kalaka coffee t-shirt. Printed on it was a skeleton holding a mug. "Art or no art, you make a mean cafecito, mijo," she said, easing coffee bags into his arms. "Hi," she said to me and gave me a big smile. "Maria Luisa, right?" "Malu," I said. I held out a $10 bill for Joe to take. "It's on the house, Malu," Mrs. Hidalgo said. She waved away my money. "Really?" I asked. "Thanks." Mrs. Hidalgo smiled again and started pouring coffee beans into a large grinder. I picked up my coffee and plate and settled onto a big purple pillow on the floor by the front window. I thought about doing homework like I told Mom I would, but I decided to work on a zine instead. When I finished eating, I placed my plate and mug in the plastic bin for dirty dishes and walked to the wall decorated with album covers. "You like our Wall of Fame?" I turned to find Mrs. Hidalgo nearby wiping a table. "Wall of Fame?" I asked. "Sure," she said. Mexican-American bands and singers we love. We put them right up there to honor them." "But Morrissey isn't Mexican," I said, pointing to where Maz's mopey face looked down on us. Morrissey was a singer of the Smiths, one of Dad's favorite bands, and I knew they were from England. "That's a joke," Mrs. Hidalgo said with a laugh. "He's an honorary Mexican because he's so popular in Mexico." I didn't know that. "Oh, okay," I said. "That's funny. You had a Ramones shirt on the day you came in with your mom, right?" Yeah, they're one of my favorite bands. One of mine, too. You see those guys right there? She pointed to a record sleeve with a black and white image of four guys and the zero scrawled across the top in hot pink. They were often called the Mexican Ramones. That's weird, I said without thinking. What's weird about it? I suddenly felt nervous, but Mrs. Hidalgo had a look on her face like she was genuinely interested in why I thought it was strange. I don't know, I said. It just sounds funny. I didn't know there were even Mexican punk bands, I guess. Well, technically they're Mexican American, but sure, she said. There have been Mexicans in punk for as long as they've been around. There's Alice Bag, the Plugs, the Brat. It sounded like she could go on. I mean, I've heard that description. There's the Japanese Ramones, or they're the Italian Ramones. That's really cool, I said, but cool didn't begin to describe what was going through my head. The truth was, back home I always felt like I was the only brown punk in the whole world. Dad understood a lot of things, but I didn't think he could really understand what that was like. We're not unicorns in Chicago, Mrs. Hidalgo said, like she could read my thoughts. She winked. I better get back to work. Next time you're in, I'll play some of these bands for you. Would you like that? Yes, I said, nodding vigorously. I would love that. I'll see you soon then, she said, and headed back into the kitchen as I stood with my mind blown. Well, there you go. Sometimes we like to think like we're the only people in the world when we feel unique. But as Malu just found out, there's a lot of others like her. Please see the prompt, guys, for your response.